Chapter 5 review. Again, if we did some of this in class, you're welcome to fast forward over the parts that we've done in class or watch it again in case you need some remindings. We're going to find our least common multiples. We're going to do number 8 two ways. We're going to do it by using prime factoring. So when we go through the 12, we're going to do the upside down division on this. And so for 12, I have 2 squared times 3. And then for 18, I'll do the tree. It's 2 times 9. The 2 comes down and 9 is 3 times 3. So for 18, we end up with 2 times 3 squared. And remember LCM, we use that to help us remember we list. Then we compare or compete, not compare, list, compete, multiply. So we list them, our factors in exponential forms. Then we compete, 2 squared or 2. I'm going to use the 2 squared. 3 or 3 squared, I'm going to use this 3 squared, and so my least common multiple is 2 squared. It looks like a Z. Times 3 squared. Well, 2 squared is 4. 3 squared is 9, and I get 36. So that's what that problem should look like. Listing multiples, we just go through and list the multiples of 12. 12, 2 times 12 is 24, 3 times 12 is 36, 4 times 12 is 48. The multiples of 18 would be 18, and then 18 times 2. I know what this is, but you may not. 2 times 8 is 6, is 16, carry the 1. 36. And right there, we have our least common multiple. It's the smallest multiple that they have in common. And you say, well, I like that method better. Well, that method works fine until you get to something like this. So on this one, we're going to use our prime factors. 8 prime factors to 2 times 4, which prime factors to 2 times 2. So we have 8m squared is 2 cubed times m squared. And then 14m, 14 is just 2 times 7. So there's me doing the tree on that one. 2, 7, and m. So we line them up, we compete. So 2 or 2 cubed, I'm going to take 2 cubed. Nothing or 7, I'm going to take the 7. M or m squared, I'm going to take the m. And so my least common multiple is 2 cubed times 7 times m squared. 2 cubed is 2 times 2 is 4 times 2 is 8. So 2 cubed is 8 times 7 times m squared. I get 56m squared. In 12 through 15, we are comparing. In order to do this, we're going to need a common denominator. So looking, I have 9 and 11. My common denominator is going to be 99. So I'm going to multiply this by 11 over 11, and this one by 9 over 9. That is going to give me 55 over 99. And 9 times 5 is 45 over 99. And 45 is smaller than 55. So again, show your work in getting your common denominators. 3 and 4, my common denominator is 12 because it's the least common multiple. So I'm going to have 8 over 12 compared to 9 over 12. 9 over 12 is the bigger one. Here, they're both negative, so I do need to look at them. 5 and 8, common denominator is 40. So multiplying this by 8 over 8, I get negative 32 over 40. Negative 35 over 40. Remember, with negatives, the bigger the number, the smaller the value because it's negative. So negative 35 is less than negative 32. 1/3 and 4/12, common denominator is actually 12. I don't need to multiply that by 12. I need to multiply it by 4. So I'm going to multiply this by 4 over 4. And so I get 4 over 12 and 4 over 12. So those are equal. Moving on down to these, we have to write each as a decimal. So we're going to take 3, take the numerator and divide it by the denominator. I'm going to put in a decimal and a 0. 5 will go into 36 times. So we end up with our answer being 0.6. It is a terminating decimal because it stops. It doesn't keep going. And you were asked to tell that. 1 divided by 6 will go in 1 time. Put my decimal there. Put in another 0. We'll go in 6 times, 36. Put in a 4, put in another 0, and it'll go 6 again. So we are starting to repeat. So my answer is 0.16. Repeating, note that your repetition only shows up on the 6. The 1 is not repeating, only the 6 is. We're going to need 3 zeros here. I know what this one is. I know the decimal equivalent to it. I have it memorized, but you may not. 8 will go into 56 times. 6 eighths is 48. 50 minus 48 is 2. Bring down a 0. 8 will go into 22 times. 16, 20 minus 16 is 40, or 4, bring down another 0. 8 will go into 45 times. And so my answer is 0.625. And it is a terminating because it comes to an end. And these two, 20 and 19 and 20, you should not have to divide. Dividing by 10 moves the decimal 1 to the left. So 3 is going to become 0.3. And it's terminating. 7, where the decimal sits right there, when I divide by 100, I need to move it 2 to the left. It's going to become 0.07, and it is also terminating. The number of zeros, so I divided by 10, so I move the decimal 1 to the left. Divided by 11, move the decimal 2 to the left. If you divided by 1,000, you would move it 3 to the left because there's 3 zeros. You can do the division, but it'll end you up in the same place. Write each as a fraction or a mixed number. And I'll fix that before you get it. So 25.25 is 25 over 100. How you know how many zeros? It's how many decimal places. I have 2 decimal places, so it's 2 zeros. 25 will go into 100 4 times. So 20, I'm just reducing my fraction there. You may recognize that as 0.25 as being 1/4. Remember, we have a quarter is 0.25 of a dollar. It's a quarter of a dollar. And then this one, 5.6, it's 5 and 6/10. That 0.6 is the 6/10. So 6/10, both divisible by 2 will reduce to 3/5. So we have our mixed number there with reduced fractions. And then here we're adding and subtracting. I'm going to show it to you both horizontally and vertically. For these, let's go ahead and do both of them. So if we're going to do horizontal and we do not have a common denominator, if we have a mixed number, the first thing we're going to need to do is write this mixed number as an improper fraction. So 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7/3, plus 3/4. Then I'm going to need to get a common denominator, which is going to be 12. So I'm going to multiply this one by 4 over 4 and this one by 3 over 3. So we're going to have 28 over 12 plus 9 over 12. 28 plus 9 is 37. And then you take that 37 and divide it by 12. It will go in 3 times with 1 left over. And that 1, we use that 12 as our denominator. So we end up with 3 and 1/12. Now, vertically, so I've got it written down here, 2 1/3 plus 3/4. We don't have to switch to the improper fraction here, but we do have to get a common denominator. So my common denominator is 12. So 3 times 4 will give me 12. That means 1 times 4 would be 4 up there. Here I would need to multiply by 3 over 3. So I'm going to get 2 and 13/12. That 13/12 is the same as 1 and 1/12. So we have 2 and 1 and 1/12, replacing that 13/12 with that, which would be 3 and 1/12. On number 26, doing it horizontally, 16 times 5 is 80, plus 4 would be 84 over 5, minus 9 times 3 is 27, 28, 29 over 3. I need a common denominator. It's going to be 15. So I'm going to multiply that one by 5 over 5 and this one by 3 over 3. 12, carry the 1. 24 plus 1 is 25. So we get 252 over 15 minus 29 times 5. 45, carry the 4, 10. We have 145. So 145 over 15. So 252 minus 145. That's 701. So we get 107 over 15. And then you may have to go somewhere else to do your division. 15 times 6 is 80. So let's try 7. 7 times 5 is 35. Carry the 3. Ooh, that worked out nicely. So 2. So we get 7 and 2/15. This is your numerator, that 2 down there, and the 15 is the denominator. Doing this one vertically, 16 and 4/5 minus 9 and 2/3. Write down your whole numbers so you don't forget them. And then do your fractions. I need a common denominator. It's going to be 15. So on this fraction, I multiplied top and bottom by 3. And on this fraction, I multiplied top and bottom by 5. I do not need to borrow on here, which is nice. 12 minus 10 is 2/15. 16 minus 9 is 7. You may do these either way. On number 27, I'm going to do this one horizontally. My common denominator, I have an x and a 5. My common denominator is actually 5x. So I'm going to multiply this by 5 over 5 and this by x over x. So I'm going to get 30 over 5x plus 3x over 5x. And then putting both of them together over the 5x, I get 30 plus 3x. There is no way to simplify that. That is the answer. On this one, okay, I'm going to do this one both horizontally and vertically. I think horizontally is going to be better. So horizontally, I'm going to take the 1.5 and make it an improper fraction. 1 times 2 is 2 plus 1 is 3. So it's 3 over 2 minus 5/8. My common denominator is 8. So I'm going to need to multiply this one by 4 over 4. So I get 12 over 8 minus 5 over 8. 12 minus 5 is 7 over 8. And then on vertically, it would look like this. 1.5 minus 5/8. 1 and my common denominator is 8. So I'm multiplying top and bottom by 4. And then this one, you're going to have to borrow the 1 and it becomes 8 over 8. So 8 over 8 plus 4 over 8, this becomes 12 over 8 minus 5 over 8. And you get your 7/8. Because we had to borrow on that one, the horizontal actually worked out easier. Number 29, you had to read in your textbook on page 280. It's a word problem. It says, an upholsterer cuts a piece of cording 1 2/3 feet long off of or from a piece that was 2 1/4 feet long. How much is less? So you start with 2 1/4 and you cut off 1 2/3. So you want to know how much is left. So I'm going to do this one horizontally. I'll show it to you vertically too, but getting these as a improper fraction, 2 times 4 is 8 plus 1 is the 9. 1 times 3 is 3 plus 2 is the 5. 3 and 4, my common denominator is 12. So I'm going to need to multiply this one by 3 over 3 and this one by 4 over 4. And so we're going to have 3 times 9 is 27 over 12 minus 5 times 4 is 20 over 12. And it will be 7 over 12. Just to show you what that would look like vertically, write our whole numbers. This would be 3 over 12. This would be multiplying by 4, 8 over 12. And we would actually have to borrow 1, make that a 1, and the one that I borrowed is 12 over 12. So this is going to become 1 and 15 over 12. So subtracting your fractions, you get 7 over 12, and 1 minus 1 is 0. So this one worked out better. It was easier to do it horizontally. Number 30 through 34, we are multiplying. Remember that when you multiply, check numerators and denominators and see if you can reduce anything. In the first one, nothing will reduce. 7 and 10 won't reduce. 1 and 4 won't reduce. 4 and 7 won't reduce. And 1 and 7 will, 1 and 10 won't reduce. So we simply multiply across. 1 times 7 is 7. 4 times 10 is 40. And we are done with that one. On 31, if you have division, remember you need to change it to multiplication. You invert the fraction, the second fraction, and multiply. Now I can do some canceling. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 6 divided by 3 is 2. And then we just need to multiply. And so we end up with negative 2 times positive 2 is negative 4. 1 times 5 is 5. So we end up with negative 4/5. Number 32, we have a mixed number. We have to first convert that to an improper fraction. So 1 times 5 is 5 plus 3 is 8. So we have 8/5 times 3/4. And then we can reduce our fractions. 4 and 8 are both divisible by 4. 2 times 3 is 6. 5 times 1 is 5. So we get 6/5, which is 1 and 1/5. That's how I got that. Again, we have mixed numbers. They have to be improper fractions. 9 times 4 is 36, plus 3 is 39 over 4, divided by 2 times 5 is 10, plus 3 is 13 over 5. Now change this to a multiplication problem. Do not do this invert and multiply step until you have done changing it to a mixed number. 13 times 3 is 39. So that will reduce. And so we have 3 times 5 is 15 over 4. So we will end up with 3 and 3/4. And then 34 is right here. We need to invert our second fraction and turn it into a multiplication problem. The fives, 5 and 5, 5 divided by 5 in each case is 1. X divided by X is 1. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 6 divided by 3 is 2. So we get 1/2 on that one. And then in this set, we have to use dimensional analysis to convert between units. Yes, you must use dimensional analysis. And that should be an equal sign right there. So 30 inches. And then we're going to take that and multiply it by, we're going to put inches down here and feet up here. There are 12 inches in 1 foot. So now we can simplify this. The inches will cancel. 12 and 30 are both even. More specifically, they're both divisible by 6. So that will be a 2 and that will be a 5. So we will end up with 5/2 feet, which if you take 5 and divide it by 2, it'll go in 2 times. With 1 left over, you end up with 2.5. So we have 2.5 feet. Pounds to ounces. So we start off with 54 ounces. We are going to multiply, and I think I'm going to use a dot there instead of a multiplication symbol. There are 16 ounces in 1 pound. I think 54 is evenly divisible by 16. 4? 6 times 4 is 24. No, it is not. Okay, so it's not evenly divisible by 16. They are both even, so let's start with that. 8 and 27. 27 is 3 times 3 times 3. So I think that's, yeah, that's as far as we can go. So we're going to end up with 27/8 pounds, and your ounces cancels. And so we take our 27, you got plenty of room to do this, divided by 8. We're going 3 times with 3 left over, so we get 3 3/8. Must use dimensional analysis because we're learning a process that we can use with more difficult things later on. 41 and 42 are word problems, and you're working backwards. It says your family is planning a 4-hour trip. Along the way, you are planning to make 3 half-hour stops. At what time should you leave if you want to arrive at the destination at 8 p.m.? So we're going to start with the 8 p.m. You've got a 4-hour trip. So I'm going to subtract 4 hours from 8 p.m. and that will get me to 4 p.m. And then I have 3 half-hour stops. That is an hour and a half, right? Half an hour plus a half an hour is 1 hour plus another. So I'm going to subtract an hour and 30 minutes. That means I need to leave at 2:30 p.m. The other way you could do this is say, add up all the time that you need. 4 plus 1.5 would be 5.5 hours, and take 8 minus 5.5 hours, 8 p.m. Okay, 42. Buses bound for Los Angeles leave the station every hour from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. How many buses leave the station? So 6 a.m. every hour to 8 p.m. So 7, 8, 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11 a.m., 12 noon, 1 p.m., 2 p.m., 3 p.m., 4 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m., and 8 p.m. So we have a total of 1, 2, 3, and then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 15 buses. So there's 15 hours between 6 and 8 p.m. 44 to 49, we are solving and you need to show your work. So we have 1/2 plus x, so the 1/8 plus x. The 1/8 is added to the x. It's positive because there's no negative sign in front of it, so I'm going to subtract. X equals 2.5. I'm going to rewrite 2 times 2 is 5/2. I gave you plenty of room here. Get your common denominator. It's 8. So I need to multiply this by 4/4. So I'm going to get 20/8 minus 1/8. And so when we subtract there, we get 19/8. Which is 2, we'll go in 16 times with 3 left over, 2 3/8. Now, if you chose to do this, let me show you, this is probably the way that I would have done it. Right here, leave that 2.5 and write it as 2 4/8. Find your common denominator. That's actually the easier way to do it. And then you just subtract. 4/8 minus 1/8 is 3/8. And then 2 minus 0 is 2. So we have the 2 3/8. 45, we have x minus 1/3. So I'm going to need to add 1/3 to both sides. So get a common denominator. Is 15, so we need to multiply the 4/5 by 3/3 and the 1/3 by 5/5. And so we get 17/15, which is 1 2/15. And that, here's how you would get that. 15 goes into 17 one time with 2 left over. Subtract 4 2/3 from both sides. So I'm going to rewrite this as 5 3/3. I'm going to borrow 1 from my 6 because I need something to subtract my 2/3 from. So 3/3 minus 2/3 is 1/3. 5 minus 4 is 1. So we get x equals 1 1/3. On this, the opposite of multiplying by 6 is dividing by 6, but because of that fraction on the other side, I'm going to write the division as multiplying by 1/6, because that would cause that to cancel, leaving me with x equals 1/54. The reciprocal of 6 is 1/6. On 48, I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal of 4/3. Notice I am using a negative, so I can get that negative to become a positive over here. And you can see over here, the 3 will cancel, the 4 will cancel, and negative times a negative is a positive. And then on this side, nothing will reduce. So we just have 2 times -4 is -8. 7 times 3 is 21. For 49, the first thing you need to do is rewrite the 2 2/5 as an improper fraction. You get 10 plus 2 is 12/5. And now multiply by the reciprocal of 12/5. And we have some reducing that'll occur. So over here, that will all reduce, leaving you with f. Over here, x. 5 and 15 will reduce. 8 and 12 are both divisible by 4. So we end up with 2 times 1 is 2. 3 times 3 is 9. We end up with 2/9. And then simplifying here, everything gets raised to the 4th power. So d to the 4th and the 2 to the 4th. 2 to the 4th is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So 2 times 2 is 4 times 3 is 8 times 2 is 16. On 51, the first thing you want to do is inside your parentheses. So negative 3 times 2 is negative 6. So this is negative 6 times negative 6, which is positive 36. That will be a squared to the 5th would be a to the 10th. That's 2 times 5. And then b to the 5th, because that's a 1 there. Power to power, we multiply. This one is 1/2 cubed. So I'm going to do each part cubed. I'm going to do the numerator cubed. So negative 1 cubed over 2 cubed, which is negative 1, because negative 1 times negative 1 times negative 1 is a negative 1. 2 cubed is 8. This would be x cubed over 3 cubed. X cubed is just 3 cubed. 3 cubed. X cubed is just x cubed. 3 cubed is 27. 3 times 3 times 3. 2 to the 4th, a to the 4th, c to the 8th. 2 times 4. 2 to the 4th, we already said was 16. And that's your answer there. And then these two come from the chapter test on page 282. Writing them from least to greatest. You've got fractions and decimals here. You've got to have them all one thing. It's easier to convert your fractions to decimals than it is your decimals to fractions. So 0.5, 1/10 is going to be 0.1. Remember, move the decimal 1 to the left when we divide by 10. And then 0. And then negative 1/4 would be negative 0.25. So the negative 1/4 is the smallest. And then 0. And then 0.1, which is the 1/10. And then the 0.5. On these, negative 3/5 is negative 0.6. This is negative 0.6 repeating, which means it keeps going. They're sixes. 1/6. Put in another 0. Get a 6. 36. 4. Put in another 0. It's going to be a 6 again. So 1/6 is 0.16 repeating. And then 2/3 is 0.6 repeating. So my smallest, I have two negatives here. This one is 0.666. It keeps going. So my smallest is the 0.6 repeating, the negative 0.6 repeating. Then we have just negative 0.6 because it only has the 1/6. And then of these two, 1/6 is the smaller one. This one is. And then 2/3 is the next. So that's them from smallest to largest.